Welcome and thank you for joining today's December 2017 public meeting, Accelerating the Future of Women Entrepreneurs. Please note that all participant lines will be muted for the duration of the call. You're welcome to submit written questions during the presentation, and these will be addressed during Q&A. To send a note, please select the Participants menu at the top of your screen and opt to Send Note to all presenters. If you are logged in using the web-based application, use the Notes tab on the lower right-hand side of your screen and address your note to all moderators. With that, I'll turn the call over to Mina Wales, Designated Federal Officer of the National Women's Business Council. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon. As the Designated Federal Officer of the National Women's Business Council, I officially call this meeting to order. I am pleased to turn the mic over to our Council Chair, Carla Harris, to begin.
Thank you, Mina. Good afternoon. My name is Carla Harris, and I'm the Chair of the National Women's Business Council, and thank you for joining us for the Council's December 2017 public meeting. Our theme today is Accelerating the Future of Women Entrepreneurs. The National Women's Business Council was established by H.R. 5050, also known as the Women's Business Ownership Act, and it was established as a federal advisory council to the U.S. Small Business Administration, the Congress, and the White House on issues of impact and importance to women business owners and leaders. It is the council's job to equip the nation's decision makers, both public and private, with policy recommendations that will impact and improve the climate for women in business across this country. We do this by producing best-in-class research on the most relevant issues facing current and aspiring women business owners and leaders. Our mission is to use compelling and rigorous research to incite action and to build bridges between the public and private arenas that support women's entrepreneurial ambitions and endeavors. This meeting is officially called to order. And with that said, let's start with an official roll call of the council members that are with us today. Please say present when I call your name. Kari Warberg Block. Present. Sherry Stewart Deutschman.
Present.
Jen Earl is unable to join us today, but on her behalf is Becky Reagan. Becky.
Present.
Whitney Keys.
Present.
Deb Rosado Shaw.
Present.
Rose Wang.
Present.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your National Women's Business Council with us today. This year, the Council celebrated 29 years of advising the White House, Congress, and the U.S. Small Business Administration on key issues facing women business owners. 29 years of convening the best intellect and experience, particularly around the challenges women business owners and leaders faced in 1988 and those that they still face today. We have executed this year the most ambitious research portfolio in the Council's history, and we have contributed important information on private markets, expanded the definition of necessity entrepreneurship for business origination, redefined an effective entrepreneurial ecosystem framework, and piloted a regional solutions lab model helping women business owners succeed. As we look ahead to changes in industry, markets, and labor, we invite all who are championing women business ownership to join us in accelerating the policy of tomorrow, meeting the needs of women entrepreneurs in the economy of the future. As you will see, today's public meeting and our Fiscal Year 2017 Annual Report focuses on accelerating the future of women entrepreneurs. Looking ahead to Fiscal Year 18, we seize this opportune moment to reestablish a baseline understanding of the current issues, the opportunities, the resources, and the gaps that are most impacting women business owners. As our first public meeting of Fiscal Year 2018, we have a lot to share and update you on. Council members today will kick us off with an update on the NWBC's research, our communications, and our engagement activities since our last public meeting during the summer. The U.S. Small Business Administration will then share their accomplishments over the course of this last year and their plans for the future in support of women business owners and entrepreneurs. And last but not least, we will close by sharing key highlights from our Fiscal Year 2017 Annual Report entitled Accelerating the Future of Women Entrepreneurs, the Power of the Ecosystem, which I am happy to report was released this morning. And finally, we'll have some time to hear from you, as we always do, via Q&A. We value your input, and we want to be sure to respond to any questions and comments that you might have. If we're unable to get your question, please do not hesitate to reach out to us at info@nwbc.gov. We're also taking today's conversation online. You can all join the conversation online using the hashtag FutureOfHerBiz on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Our Twitter handle is @NWBC. Our Instagram handle is @NWBCGOV. And we can be found on Facebook at nwbc.gov. That is all for our agenda and our formal housekeeping, so let's get this show on the road. For the updates on the Council's research portfolio, I turn it over to my fellow Council member, Kari Warberg Block.
Thank you, Carla. Good afternoon. I am Kari Warberg Block, and I currently serve on the National Women's Business Council, and I am located in sunny Bismarck, North Dakota. It is the Council's job to equip the nation's decision makers, public and private, with policy recommendations derived from our research that will impact and improve the climate for women in business in our country. Our research portfolio spans of 4 pillars: data, access to capital, access to markets, and job creation and growth. We produce best-in-class research on the most relevant issues facing current and aspiring women business owners and leaders. This year was the Council's most ambitious research portfolio in history, and I want to make sure you are all aware and up to date on our latest research. As you will see in our 2017 Annual Report, between October 1st, 2016 and September 30th, 2017, we have produced 10 new research reports on some of the most relevant issues facing women in business today and 1 entrepreneurial ecosystem playbook. While we don't have the time to go deeply into the findings of each of these reports today, I invite you to learn more about either of the papers mentioned and that you can see on your screen by visiting nwbc.gov and downloading the full report. But since the last time we spoke, we had the privilege of releasing 3 dynamic research reports and 1 blog. And I do want to share some highlights from these exciting materials. On September 13th, in honor of National Hispanic Heritage Month, NWBC published Hispanic Women Entrepreneurship, Understanding Diversity Among Hispanic Women Entrepreneurs, which details the barriers to success of solutions to help unlock their full economic potential. The report reveals that while Hispanic women entrepreneurs have grown at a faster rate than any other group, 137% between 2007 and 2016, their full economic potential is unrealized. The research highlighted that 1.9 million Hispanic women-owned firms in the United States make a significant contribution to the economy, employing 550,400 workers and generating $97 billion in revenues. However, if Hispanic women-owned businesses generated employment and revenues proportionate to other women entrepreneurs, these figures would be increased by 80,000 and 155 billion respectively. On October 11th, the NWBC published a second part of an important study on women necessity entrepreneurs, Necessity as a Driver of Women's Entrepreneurship, Her Stories. The report tests theoretical framework introduced in the NWBC's first report on necessity entrepreneurship and offers additional qualitative observations derived from case studies of 9 diverse women business owners. For the report, the 9 women discussed their entrepreneurial experiences in context of the new model of necessity entrepreneurship and provided some new insights on when and how women launch businesses to respond to any number of concerns encountered in their professional lives. The case studies allowed researchers to evaluate the new model of necessity entrepreneurship, and here's what we found. Entrepreneurial motivations exist on a continuum. Women may choose entrepreneurship due to gender-specific issues. Entrepreneurship is unlikely to fully resolve concerns motivating business ownership. Specifically, multiple women reported that while the flexibility inherent in entrepreneurship provided relief from restrictive traditional employment environments, entrepreneurship does not equate to more free time. However, entrepreneurship allowed the women to control when they worked and to achieve what they defined as success while balancing their personal lives and professional careers. On October 18th, NWBC published a new blog on our website, nwbc.gov, on the topic of Women-Owned Small Business Program called WOSB. This blog shines light on the federal government's small business 5% contracting goal with certified women-owned small business, shares procurement data across agencies, and includes some helpful tips. Finally, on November 1st, during National Veterans Small Business Week, the NWBC published a research report titled Veteran Women in Business, a Data Resource. This report develops a profile of veteran women-owned firms through an analysis of the U.S. Census Survey of Business Owners and Self-Employed Persons and the Annual Survey of Entrepreneurs. In particular, this report serves as a data resource for researchers and stakeholders who aim to support veteran women as they continue to have a great presence in the entrepreneurial community. As for our research coming out in the next few months, we are extending and expanding our research on crowdfunding. We are also working through the OMB approval process to develop an original NWBC survey and protocols for focus groups of millennial entrepreneurs. Additionally, this past summer, we started to work with the Library of Congress's Federal Research Division to set a baseline for research on women business enterprise by doing a scan of all research completed to date, spanning the period of time from 2010 to 2017 in the areas of access to capital, access to markets, entrepreneurial development, and economic impact. Stay tuned for release of access to capital and access to markets within the next quarter. I know that was a lot to take in, and we look forward to keeping you updated on these important efforts. Now, I will turn it over to my fellow council member, Rose Wang, for updates on our communications and engagement efforts. Rose, the mic is all yours.
Thank you so much, Kari, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rose Wong, and I currently serve on the National Women's Business Council. I live in the Washington, D.C. metro area. Here at the Council, research is the springboard to action and serves as the foundation of our communications and engagement activities, which I will be reporting to you on. Before I go into the communications and engagement activities we had in this first quarter, I did want to share a few updates on how we ended FY 2017. The last time we spoke, the Council had launched the NWBC Solutions Lab a series of roundtable discussions that council members convened across the country in August and September to distribute and further explore data and findings of the council's new research reports that you just heard from Kari. In fact, we spoke to you from 2 locations, Nashville, Tennessee, and Seattle, Washington, on the day of our last public meeting. After that, we added 2 more stops to the Solutions Lab before the end of fiscal year. In late August, we were in Bismarck, North Dakota, with Kari hosting a roundtable with North Dakota Senator Heidi Heidekamp. And in mid-September, we had the honor of hosting our last roundtable for the fiscal year in Des Moines, Iowa. Last but not the least, in September, in celebration of the Hispanic Heritage Month, the council spoke with Linda Bucaro, consumer reporter at News 4 New York and host of Visiones, about NWBC's latest completed research report on Hispanic women entrepreneurs in honor of the Hispanic Heritage Month. Again, you heard Kari Warberg blog spoke about that report. Moving on communications and engagement updates. Every start of the fiscal year, we start with National Women's Small Business Month in October, and it was a very busy month for us. We kicked it off with a statement from our chair, which you can find on www.nwbc.gov. The council members took over our Instagram account at NWBC.gov, and we celebrated with quotes from our council members speaking to the impact of our work and highlighting our most aggressive research portfolio to date. So take a look at our quotes on Instagram account. We also celebrated our 29th birthday on October 25th and shared the following gifts. We delivered a letter from the council summarizing our learnings from the Solutions Lab series, and we shared a press release on the story of the NWBC these past 29 years, which was picked up by 167 online outlets who have a potential audience of nearly 215 million people. The day after our birthday, in honor of Women's Small Business Month, the U.S. Small Business Administration hosted a Twitter chat on business tips for women entrepreneurs. We joined the chat and shared tips and resources to help women start, grow, and succeed in business. Just in case you missed it, our research report on necessity entrepreneurship was released this month, and it was featured in an article written by the Story Exchange, which explores how necessity really fuels female founders. And that was just on the virtual side. In terms of our in-person activities, we made remarks at the Maryland Women's Business Center Awards Luncheon. We presented on our report on millennial women entrepreneurs at the D.C. Office of Innovation and Equitable Development Youth Entrepreneurship Roundtable. Our chair, Carla Harris, received an award and gave a keynote at the Connecticut's Women's Business Development Council 20th Anniversary Gala Luncheon and Awards Ceremony. And on our 29th birthday, we participated in the House Small Business Committee Roundtable on Necessity Entrepreneurship, where we shared our necessity reports and framework. So we stayed very busy. November and December has kept us occupied as well. To kick off National Entrepreneurship Month, NWBC submitted a comment for the record on the hearing titled Strengthening the Entrepreneurial Ecosystem for Women. And in honor of Women's Entrepreneurship Day, proclaimed on November 19th, NWBC hosted a Twitter chat with the title, Necessity as a Driver of Women's Entrepreneurship. This was done on November 17th. The purpose of this chat was to share tips and insights to help women learn more about the Council's latest cutting-edge research findings, as well as entrepreneurial opportunities and supports. And don't worry if you missed it. You can always go to Twitter after today's call and search under the hashtag NWBC chat. On December 4th, I was honored to represent the NWBC at a briefing hosted at the State Department's Foreign Press Center to a reporting tour for 18 foreign journalists coming from the Global Entrepreneurship Summit that took place in Hyderabad, India at the end of November. This year's theme was Women First, Prosperity for All. And during the briefing, I was able to highlight the work the Council has done in the state for women entrepreneurs. So for all of the news, please stay tuned via www.nwbc.gov or follow us along on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. We have quite the things brewing for next quarter, and in the next few weeks, we will specifically showcasing our just-released FY2017 Annual Report. So now I'll turn the mic over to our esteemed chair, Carla Harris, who will introduce our next speaker. Carla?
Yes, thank you so much, Rose, and thank you, Kari, for sharing the Council's updates. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the NWBC is a federal advisory council to the U.S. Small Business Administration, as well as the Congress and the White House, and we work very closely with the U.S. Small Business Administration throughout the year. And as we look forward to the future, we applaud SBA efforts to do the same around women entrepreneurship. This year, Administrator Linda McMahon announced the SBA Ignite Tour, a national outreach campaign in which she will tour more than 60 cities in 2 years to listen to entrepreneurs, small business owners, and community leaders about tax reform, regulation, access to capital, and educating small businesses and aspiring entrepreneurs about SBA products and services that can help them succeed. Helping her to achieve this goal is our next speaker. It is my great pleasure to introduce Alan Gutierrez, the Associate Administrator of the Office of Entrepreneurial Development of the U.S. Small Business Administration. As the Associate Administrator of the Office of Entrepreneurial Development, Alan is dedicated to enhancing the nationwide network of offices, business executives, and mentors that support current and aspiring business owners as they originate, scale, and compete in today's global market. This nationwide network includes the following resource partners: Women's Business Centers, the WBCs, Small Business Development Centers, SBDCs, and SCORE. This is not Alan's first time in the SBA. He previously served from 2001 to 2006, and during that tenure he served as Senior Advisor to the Chief Operating Officer, as well as Senior Advisor to the Office of International Trade. In his position in the Office of International Trade, he served as the key representative for SBA during the Dominican Republic Central America Free Trade Agreement and was very involved in those negotiations. This was signed into law, as many of you know, as the first free trade agreement between the United States and a group of smaller developing countries. Most recently, Alan served as the National Executive Director of the Latino Coalition, TLC. Under his leadership, the coalition grew to include 1.2 million Hispanic business owners and over 90 coalition partners, transforming TLC into one of the nation's largest and most effective Latino advocacy groups. Alan, I turn it over to you to tell us about the Small Business Administration's accomplishments for women business owners in this past year, including your findings from the Ignite Tour, and to point out future policy areas that will accelerate the future of women entrepreneurs. Alan?
Carla, thank you very much, and thank you very much for your leadership. It's great to be on the call, and I know you and I have one friend, Mr. Sid Wilson, that you know very well as well, so certainly it's good to have you on the call, and thank you again for your leadership. As Carla mentioned, you know, I'm glad to be back at SBA. It's an honor and a real pleasure to be here. I know that unfortunately the administrator her schedule not permit her to be on the call, so I am here with all of you, and certainly wanted to, you know, give you an overview of, as Carla mentioned, of what the administrator vision and goal, if you haven't been able to be in person in some of her speeches, but also where we're leading towards and for the future as well. Carla, not only yourself, but the entire board, I want to thank you all for your leadership and this very important focus in the group and the council, because I know that certainly, obviously, as you mentioned, having one of my 3 lanes that I call as the Women Business Centers, I know that it's very important and it's exciting and invigorating to see, the passion, just the vision and the impact that's being made across the country by women entrepreneurs and their growth. So I'm excited to be here again at SBA and working hand in hand with all of you ongoing. I know that I had the opportunity to meet with some of you earlier the year when I was onboarding, when there was a brief meeting with the administrator, so it's great seeing most of you. Some of you I know I've worked in the past with during my capacity in the nonprofit arena, but certainly, as Carla mentioned, the administrator has a very aggressive goal as it relates to Ignite Tour, where we really want to go out and be with all the entrepreneurs and small business owners across the country and really look at and getting their input and their vision of what the SBA should be or should be looking at moving forward. Part of it, as we know, and if you haven't heard the administrator say, SBA's government best kept secret, and we certainly want to take that away and make it where SBA is in the forefront. And part of that has been over the last year during our tenure is to make it more effective, efficient, and accountable. Overall, we know that one of the administrators' goals is to revitalize entrepreneurship in America. And certainly, like I mentioned before, women entrepreneurs is a big part and an important part in terms of reimagining and making a footprint across the country. There is the other second goal the administrator is looking at and has been mentioning is making sure the resources are available for SBA across the country. So not only from the Ignite Tour and traveling every state and listening to concerns and what are the challenges and opportunities facing small business, but the other thing I would say is that a very important part, more of an operational to a certain degree, but I feel that it transcends into an external perspective, is field alignment and program office headquarter alignment, which is an exciting step that we're taking forward that was a combination of not only administration and team, but also the career team, senior executive team, and field operations of coming together, looking at ways to how do we make the agency aligned as one team, but also make it effective and efficient that the end user, that entrepreneur, that individual that has a dream, passion to start a business or to increase or take to the next level, has those available resources through our different district offices, and if not available to the district offices, then how to use all the different resources as it relates to online and different areas on our websites and rules and so forth. So it's a very exciting time in that aspect as we're continuing to move that transition forward overall. The third, as I mentioned, in terms of effective and efficient, is to look at the programs as well and continue to challenge and have the leadership think outside the box and looking at ways that we can make the SBA up front and more accountable on all the goals and objectives to reach out to the end user. I would say from as Carla mentioned, through the Office of Entrepreneur Development, OED, shortness, is certainly we work very strongly with the Small Business Development Centers, SCORE, and Women Business Centers. I know that this year we had some a very aggressive and also accomplished numbers overall in regards to 150,000 people or individuals that went through the Women Business Center overall. But I would say that we're not just looking at numbers for the future. We're looking at ways to work stronger in correlation with all the 3 resource partners and obviously with here with NWBC in what are the ways to think outside the box? What are the things that we're going to be looking at overall? As in regards to the Women Business Centers, we are a little bit over 100 women business centers across the country. We're not looking at it from a number-wise, but more of a making a footprint and availability. So in the next couple of weeks, we'll hopefully be able to, I look forward to be able to announce some particular announcements on requests for proposals for across the country for potential additional new women's business centers. And so there will be that coming out very shortly, and I'll make sure to work here with the leadership team here to get that messaging out overall. So that's an exciting time overall in that aspect to make sure that we're not missing state or particular areas that might have dropped off for many different reasons in the past. In general, I would say in closing, part of it I would say in that is that, as I mentioned, next year we're excited to, as an agency, to turn 65. So there'll be a lot of activity, not only from the Ignite Tour, but the reimagining. Also, I would say the Small Business Week that will be coming up. And it seems like it's far away, but, you know, just in closing the eyes, we'll be all together and celebrating. So I know that we're excited about that. The other thing I would say in terms of accomplishments, and it's not really an accomplishment, but I would say that working hand in hand with front office and the administrator, and we're hopefully close to being announcing the head of the Women Business Center. Honest, I think that beginning of the year is the goal to be able to announce, so that's an exciting time. So the individual will be able to work closely with everybody on the board and the chair and leadership on areas for FY18. So that's an exciting, it has taken a little bit of a time. I realize that, but I really feel that the individual that I had the opportunity to recommend is going to be a quality person that really is going to work hand in hand with a lot of the leadership that's on the call right now. And lastly, you know, I would say that, you know, we're excited about what we did in the Women's Business Center in terms of innovation. If all of you are not aware of that particular, very successful, and I really was enlightened about all the top 10 finalists and all the impact and thinking, you know, it's one of those where you like think, why didn't I think of that, you know? But clearly that is part of the entrepreneur and visionary of a lot of the, you know, individuals and women business owners across the country from that standpoint. We are entertaining of moving it forward next year. We're just working on some of the additional funding that it would require it to be from a private sector perspective, because it was supported by the Sarah Blakely Foundation. So it's something that we'll be actively looking. But as more news comes about and the implementation, we'll make sure that you get all that information. But I know that there's a lot of information that was given in the beginning of all the great work and studies that you guys have been doing and what's coming up in the forefront. So certainly I've been throwing a lot of different information out there. But I just wanted to personally thank all of you on the call and the board for their leadership, and for the staff here that is here with us right now too, because things don't just happen magically. It happens because they're paying attention and looking at things that, you know, from the little things to the big things, making sure everything's seamless and moving forward. So I want to publicly also, say that I want to congratulate everybody here on staff and on the team for their passion day in and day out for what they're doing overall, and look forward to ongoing working with everybody. On behalf of the administrator also, you know, happy holidays. Wish everyone safe and happy holidays. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. I know that it seems crazy, but January will be coming very shortly. So again, on that note, thank you very much for the opportunity to be able to address all of you. I really appreciate all your passion, and just have a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you.
So thank you, Alan, for all of your passion and all of your hard work, and we really enjoy partnering with you on all these wonderful initiatives, and certainly as you outline what's ahead, we are very much looking forward to celebrating the FBA's 65th birthday and our 30th birthday, so it's going to be quite a year in 2018 for sure. So thank you again, and thank you for taking the time for coming on today with us. And now, the National Women's Business Council, as I mentioned earlier, released the Fiscal Year 17 Annual Report, Accelerating the Future of Women Entrepreneurs, the Power of the Ecosystem, and we are pleased to share it with all of you. In this report, we present a review of the Council's research findings and presentation of policy recommendations to our three constituencies, the SBA, the White House, and Congress, action taken by the Council and our key stakeholders and other parts of the entrepreneurial ecosystem that have impacted women business owners in fiscal year 17. And we also preview and look ahead to our research agenda for 2018. The title of our Fiscal Year 2017 Annual Report, as I just said, includes the tagline, The Power of the Ecosystem. You will find the NWBC's entrepreneurial ecosystem model referenced throughout the report, but very heavily on the cover and on the research and the policy recommendation sections. Now, before I go in depth to our policy recommendations, I would like to also share more information about our entrepreneurial ecosystem model. This spring, as many of you know, the Council unveiled an original new model for an ecosystem framework that stakeholders can use to strengthen regional support for women entrepreneurs. The Council's original entrepreneurial ecosystem framework outlines the following 7 critical domains for supporting women entrepreneurs in any geographic environment: capital, community building, policy, resources, human capital, innovation, and market access. Through the process of releasing 11 research products, speaking with entrepreneurs and business support providers in diverse locations, including both urban and rural, coastal, Midwestern, and Southern, and holding conversations with federal policymakers in Washington, the Council developed a slate of actionable recommendations. In our Fiscal Year 2017 Annual Report, there are 11 policy recommendations the Council makes and connects to a domain of the entrepreneurial ecosystem, 3 of which I will highlight right now. First, the National Women's Business Council encourages the collaboration of entrepreneurial support organizations at the local level. The Council held roundtable conversations in Nashville, Tennessee, Seattle, Washington, Bismarck, North Dakota, and Des Moines, Iowa, to distribute and further explore data and findings of the Council's extensive body of new research reports released this year. Participants widely agreed that a variety of helpful resources exist for women business owners in each of these communities, but that these resources may be difficult to access or to meaningfully leverage. In particular, women may not be aware of the full range of tools or programs available to them in their communities, and nonprofit support organizations may also offer duplicative programming or compete for the same sources of grant funding, limiting themselves as well as the full effectiveness of the ecosystem. Therefore, the Council recommends that local chambers of commerce, mayoral or city council offices, and other influential business organizations encourage community-level resource marketing and collaboration around that marketing by developing and hosting a web-based repository of effective local resource providers modeled after the NWBC's Grow Her Business website, or budgeting the relatively minimal funding required for a local organization to do so. And secondly, creating incentives such as grant programs for collaboration between local entrepreneurial support programs so that efforts are amplified and strengthened but not duplicated. Secondly, the Council recommends improving awareness, outreach, education, and measures of success in the Small Business Innovation Research, or the SBIR program. The SBIR program is a highly competitive program that encourages domestic small businesses to engage in federal research and development that has the potential for commercialization. Among other goals, the SBIR program strives to foster and encourage participation in innovation and entrepreneurship by women and socially or economically disadvantaged persons. Self-reported women business owners make up fewer than 15% of Phase 1 applicants to the Small Business Innovation Research Program, and an even smaller percentage of SBIR awardees. NWBC recommends that the SBIR program review outreach language and marketing to ensure that language is gender neutral and inclusive, and address bias in the review process, including by funding decision-maker training and analyzing review criteria for institutionalized bias. Finally, the Council supports data collection efforts by the U.S. Census Bureau. The U.S. Census Bureau Survey of Business Owners and Self-Employed Persons, or the SBO report, as most of you might know it, and the Annual Survey of Entrepreneurs, ASE, are valuable sources of data on women's business ownership in this country. However, these efforts are limited in their utility because at present, the Survey of Business Owners is fielded only once every 5 years, with results reported on a several-year lag. NWBC supports continued or increased funding to the U.S. Census Bureau's business data collection efforts, particularly funding that will improve data validity, geographic specificity, and collection frequency. The Council urges policymakers at the local, state, and national level to effectively coordinate the variety of stakeholders that share the same goal of realizing the full economic potential of women entrepreneurs by strengthening the power and the resourcefulness of the ecosystem. Participants, we are now ready to answer any questions that you might have via phone or online.
All right. To send a written question, please select the participants menu from the top of your screen and opt to send note to all presenters. If you're logged in using the web-based application, use the Notes tab on the lower right-hand side of your screen and address your note to all moderators. And we do have a few questions that have come in. The first, what do you still consider to be the biggest challenges women business owners face today?
Yes, thank you for whoever contributed that question. Despite the fact that there are challenges with respect to markets, gaining access to the federal procurement process, we still, when I say markets, I mean international markets and even some domestic markets where there is not a strong ecosystem. We at the NWBC continue to believe that the most significant challenge for women business owners today still is access to capital. And while there is some movement in that space, if you think about crowdfunding, and you refer to the research that Kari talked about earlier in that space, we certainly do think that crowdfunding may go a long way to level the playing field, that access to capital, both for origination and scaling, continues to be the most significant challenge. I'd say second to that is an awareness, as we have just highlighted in our annual report, and an awareness of the resources that exist on the ground, again, in any community. The ecosystem process has not been carefully coordinated throughout the country, which is one of the reasons that we wanted to highlight that, because sometimes there are great resources that are available in any metropolitan area, but the current entrepreneurs and aspiring female entrepreneurs aren't aware of those resources. So there needs to be significant investment in raising the level of visibility around those resources that are available to both originate and scale businesses.
All right, our next question is how many policies does the annual report have in total?
The annual report, which was just released, has a total of 12 policy recommendations, but each of our research reports has additional recommendations that come specifically from the research that we've released. So if you want to see a compilation of all of the policy recommendations that NWBC has articulated in fiscal year 2017, I would also refer you, in addition to the annual report, to all of the specific research that we have released this year. Marvin, any other questions at this time?
Yes, it looks like we've had a few more questions come in. When does the SBA Ignite Tour begin? What is the process for outreach, collaboration?
Yes, Marvin, are you still on the line?
Are you hearing me? I'm sorry, Carla.
Yes.
I'm not sure if I cut out there for you.
I could hear you, Marvin. Sorry, I meant Alan. Are you still on the line with us?
Hey, Alan is not on the line, but my name is Ryan Lambert. I'm also with the Office of Entrepreneurial Development.
Great.
Yes, and I want to shed some insight on the Ignite Tour. The administrator has been traveling throughout the country already, so the Ignite Tour has already begun. As far as outreach, we are working closely with the district offices and the resource partners in each area as the Ignite stops come up to bring the community in on each event. So,
and Ryan,
yes.
We might also be helpful in that we can also post on our website ahead of time so that we can make sure that women entrepreneurs who are in the city where the administrator will be traveling is aware of her presence and can make sure that they have a chance to engage.
I agree.
Okay, Marvin, any other questions?
All right. So the NWBC will follow up directly with individuals regarding their questions. I think that we've had all the questions that we're going to take today, I believe.
Okay. Oh, yes, I am. I'm looking at the time. You are right, Marvin. So if you have any other questions, please make sure to email us, and we will, as we always do, make sure that we answer any question that was not taken on this call.
All right. Thank you for joining today's conference. The session is now concluded, and you may disconnect.
Yes.
Sorry, you're open.
Okay, so sorry, guys. He did not mean to disconnect us at this point. That brings us to the conclusion of our meeting today, but again, I wanted to thank Alan Gutierrez for sharing updates from the U.S. Small Business Administration, and to my fellow council members, I wanted to thank you for your continued engagements and your efforts to support women entrepreneurs across the country. And to the audience, thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us. And finally, I want to take a few moments to publicly acknowledge our beloved council member who will be rolling off the council at the end of this month, Kari Warberg. Thank you for your tremendous service with the work of the council in supporting women entrepreneurs, giving us critical research insights, supporting our policy recommendations, and with our public engagement efforts. We will miss your passion, your commitment, and expertise, but as always, know that you are not getting off that easily. We'll continue to reach out to you as your insights have been invaluable to us over the course of your tenure. So I thank you, I thank you, I thank you. It is an honor for us collectively to serve as counselor, convener, and collaborator with all of you and to advise a new set of leaders in the White House, the Congress, and the U.S. Small Business Administration. The Council will continue to focus on the pressing issues that impact women business owners. And leading up to our 30th anniversary of the NWBC, we invite you to join us in accelerating the policy of tomorrow. Don't forget, stay tuned to our Fiscal Year 2018 upcoming research releases. We hope you enjoyed today's public meeting. Don't forget to download and read the Fiscal Year 2017 Annual Report. Now I'm turning it over to Mina Wells to officially adjourn this meeting.
As the designated federal officer of the National Women's Business Council, I officially adjourn this meeting. Thank you for joining today's public meeting, and have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you for joining today's conference. Session has concluded, and you may now disconnect.